After knowing the processes involved here, we have to know the government agencies that are involved in the transaction or in the transfer of the parcel of land. Among the government agencies are as follows: the assessor's office, it's in your city or municipality, and also your treasurer's office, and the Bureau of Internal Revenue, and the Registry of Deeds, or the Register of Deeds. Now, it is with your assessor's office that you will get several documents regarding the land, and in your with your treasurer's office, it's where you pay your real property taxes and also your transfer tax. And with the Bureau of Internal Revenue, you're going to pay your national taxes, except for real property taxes and transfer tax, because these are local taxes. I will allot a lesson for on taxes only and classifications of taxes. Now, with the Register of Deeds, it is where the certificate of title, whether it's original or transfer certificate of title, are found or are kept. And you have to remember that if you're dealing with a would-be seller of a property, you should not be relying on the title on their hands, but you have to verify it with the Register of Deeds, because it's possible that you are the second buyer they're dealing with, and the property had already been transferred to another person, except that the transfer before the government offices were not made. Now, you have to know, aside from the agencies, you have to know the documents that you must have during the transaction. Now, I have to repeat this because capacity of the seller and buyer is very important. And if you're not the one doing it personally, or there's a corporation involved, you have to have a special power of attorney or a board resolution with the secretary certificate of the corporation. And you have also to take note that the deed of absolute sale must be notarized, because that's one of the requirements of law. And there should be an acknowledgement receipt, meaning that the price has been paid and it was duly received by the seller. And you have to have the original or transfer certificate of title. My one piece of advice: you should not be buying a property without seeing the original copy or the owner's duplicate copy of the title, whether it's the original or transfer certificate of title. And again, you have to verify it with the Register of Deeds. And you also have to know the tax, or you have to have the tax declaration of the property. It is where you can see the valuation of the property, the market value, the assessed value. So, and also you will know there the taxable, or the taxes that will be paid based on the tax declaration. Aside from those documents, you have to know, or you have to have the subdivision plan. And the subdivision plan is, you have to get it from the DNR, and it's attached actually during the processing of the title. You have to have a sketch plan, or and the vicinity map. The vicinity map is very relevant, especially in the city and in relation to taxation. And also, you have to have the real property tax clearance, because there can be no transfer without the real property tax clearance. And people always confuse this with the capital gains tax and the real property tax. Real property tax is computed annually, and it is a local tax. I will make again, I will make a specific lesson on types of taxes attached to property. And you also have to have a tracer or history of the property, who were the previous transfers or owners of the property. And aside from that, you have to have the certificate of no improvement. If the sale only involves a land and there's no structure therein, then you have to have a certificate of no improvement, because it would really vary, or it would really change if there is an improvement or a structure, because especially if it's a building, the price would change, and also the taxes involved, because a taxable building or a structure would also change the tax liability of the seller, especially. And also the recent real property tax receipt, you have to have this. And the most important would be, or among the important requirements, would be the photocopies of the valid government IDs. And you have to have the three specimen signatures because it will be required by it is required by BIR, and also the tax identification number of the parties if available. However, it's very common that I've encountered a lot of people dealing or transacting properties and they have no tax identification number. However, under the BIR procedure, you have the one-time transaction TIN or tax identification number, and during the transaction, there will be an assigned tax identification number. Now, the fees involved, it is very basic. Aside from all these legal requirements, the documents, and the government offices involved, you have to know the money involved. Of course, the price, and you have to pay for the due diligence. You have to investigate, and there's an attached fee to that, and also the notarization. And you have to check on the IBP rates because there's a standard rate for that, and notaries public know this, and the lawyer's fees if you're going to hire one. And I would really advise that you will hire a lawyer in the transfer of your property so that you will have better safeguards, especially that the lawyers are licensed and it's their expertise. And if and when the lawyer does bad on you, you will have a hold because you can make a complaint or file a complaint before the IBP. And you also have to take note of the fees to be paid before the government, especially um, the certified copies of the documents that you will be getting, the taxes, of course. This is a very important um, expense in acquiring the land, and most parties will change the terms or their negotiate during the negotiation stage. They will change their terms and conditions of the sale just because of the fees or taxes attached in the transaction. Now, these are the taxes that must be paid during when you acquire a parcel of land. So you have to take note. There's a capital gains. I included that in the slide. You can look at it. And the documentary stamp tax. Again, you should not be confused with the real property tax and all these transactional tax. The first three taxes are transaction taxes. Now, I want to end this lesson with the following quick tips. You have to conduct due diligence so that you have better safeguards and the land really exists before you purchase it. And again, better have an ocular inspection conducted. And you have to know all the taxes, fees, and expenses involved. And aside from this, you have to know who should be paying because under sales law, all these expenses by default would be paid by the seller. However, upon agreement of the parties, it could be transferred to the buyer. And this is the most important one. If in doubt, you hire a lawyer. Then your rights will be safeguarded and you have better security. I thank you for your attention, and I hope you learned so much from this lesson and you will apply it in your lives, not just for those who are studying law, but also in your private capacity later if you choose to acquire properties. Thank you very much and see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.